Hello! Welcome to a new week of class time, your daily classroom for CSEC students. You can watch this lesson in real time on Television Jamaica's YouTube channel or One Spot Media. Send in your questions to Television Jamaica's Facebook page at Television Jamaica or Instagram television_Jamaica. Or use the hashtag TVJClassTime. Today in CSEC English, we'll be looking at equivalent sentences and construction shift. I'm Vanessa Francis. Now, of course, we always begin by looking at our lesson objectives. So after this lesson, these are the things you should be able to do. So, analyze equivalent sentences and construction shift items. Select responses to equivalent sentences and construction shift questions. Discuss responses to equivalent sentences and construction shift questions. All right, so let's get into it. Now, construction shift. Now we have a little image here for you to analyze. When you think about construction, you think about various elements coming together to create something, right? So if you look here, you'll see different people doing different things, just like the words in a sentence. Each word has a different function. You have the different parts of the sentence that you learned from way back when, your subject, your predicate, your different parts of speech, your nouns, pronouns, verbs, and so on. So all of those come together to construct a sentence. Now with construction shift, what you'll be doing is putting the sentence that you get in a different way. So you're going to construct a sentence by shifting parts of it. So here is it. So to construct means to build, to create, to recreate. And of course, to shift means to move, or you're going to make a slight change in something, just as how we looked at the diagram a while ago. So therefore, when you do construction shift, you're going to create a new sentence. You're going to shift phrases around in the sentence based on the given instructions, based on the prompts you get. But be very careful. Even though you're recreating the sentence, you are not to change the overall meaning of the original one. So keep that in mind. You have to keep that in mind. You're not changing the meaning. You're just changing the elements that made the sentence in the first place. Now, in order to complete these tasks, these are some things that you have to do. Of course, you have to read the original sentence very carefully. You can't shift anything unless you know what it is you're supposed to shift. So you have to read the original one carefully, get the meaning of it. What does this sentence mean? What is it conveying? What is the main idea? Then, of course, the next thing you need to do, because you're going to be shifting around different parts of the sentence, you have to make note of the different meaning parts of the sentence. So you're looking at the different phrases. What does this phrase mean? What does that phrase mean? So if you have to move it, you understand the meaning you're going to create after you have moved it. Of course, you have to make note of the prompt you're given. For construction shift, you might be asked to begin the sentence with a certain word or phrase. You might be asked to substitute a word or phrase in the sentence. So you have to make note of what you're supposed to start the sentence with, the new one, or what you're supposed to shift into the sentence and what you're supposed to take out of the original sentence. Now, because you're going to be doing construction shift, you first have to deconstruct the original sentence. You have to break it down because you're going to be doing different things with this sentence. So you might end up starting the sentence at a point in the middle. You might end up starting the sentence at the second section of the sentence. So you have to break it down in order to get the pieces to fit together again. Of course, you're going to shift the different sections that need to be shifted. So these sections will have to move around a bit so that you know how best you can rephrase them. And of course, remember it is an English exam, so you're looking for grammatical sentences. The grammar has to be correct when you shift them around. Of course, you're going to rewrite the sentence now. So you have broken it down. You have made note of what you need to include. So of course you need to jot it down now, right? Rewrite it, and you're going to look at which option that you're given best fits into it. And when you're finished, you're going to read it. You're going to read it so that you can compare it to the original. You're going to make sure, as we said before, the original sentence and your new sentence should fit. The same meaning should be in both of them. All right? So keep these tips in mind as we go through the construction shift section of the lesson. So here's an example that we'll do together. Now look at the original sentence. He was excited to go to the party, but he was not comfortable when he arrived there. So that is the original. Keep the meaning in mind. So we have our subject who is about to go to a party or thinking of going to a party. And when he was thinking of going, he was excited. However, unfortunately, when he gets there, he's not feeling so comfortable. Now notice your prompt now is that you're to begin with, he was uneasy. Now if you look at the original sentence, which section of the sentence aligns with that meaning? He was uneasy. Is it the first part, he was excited to go to the party? Or is it the second part, but he was not comfortable when he arrived there? What part of the sentence has the same idea being conveyed as he was uneasy? The second part. Good. So if you're going to start the sentence with he was uneasy, now you have to think of how am I going to start the sentence and how am I going to write this new sentence? So begin. He was uneasy when he arrived there. Is that it? Or are you going to say he was uneasy and excited to go to the party? So you notice those two ideas do not relate very well at all. So your options to include in your new sentence, although, when, for, in spite of. Remember, you are starting your sentence with he was uneasy. The section of the sentence that conveys the idea is the second part of the sentence. He was not comfortable. Uncomfortable and uneasy convey the same idea. So what would your eventual new sentence look like, including the words, he was uneasy to start, and one of these options inside? So the word you should have thought of using is although, because you're going to start with he was uneasy, something, something, something about being at the party, although he had been excited in the beginning. So here is what your reconstructed sentence could look like. You have two ways you could have done it. So you could have said, he was uneasy when he arrived at the party, although he had been excited to go there. Or you could say, he was uneasy at the party, although he had been excited to go. Now, if you look at the first option, I know somebody is going to say, but see the word when? Yes, the word when is there, but if you think back to your options, when was already in your original sentence, when he arrived at the party. So you did not shift that part, so to speak. What you shifted was the first part about him being excited with the last part about him not being comfortable. So you use although now to join those two sections that you have switched around. All right? So pay close attention to that. So, of course, we're going to do quite a number of them now. And these are the instructions you're likely to see on your paper one. So you're likely to see, revise each of the following sentences according to the directions that follow it. Do not change the meaning of the original sentence. Look at the choices A to D for the correct word or phrase that should be included in your revised sentences and mark the corresponding letter. So the same thing we just did a while ago. So here's our first example now. So again, although his parents gave him encouragement, he was not prepared to work. Now you are to start it with for all. Now this one is a little tricky because not all of us use that particular phrase in this way. So for all of what did he do? What happens? So you're looking at your meaning segments. You have although his parents gave him encouragement. And then you have he was not prepared to work. So where would the for all best fit? For all of what? For all of what? For all the encouragement. Very good. So for all the encouragement, and then you can finish the rest of the sentence, and it should look something like this here. So you're going to use the encouragement, and then your reconstructed sentence could look like this. For all the encouragement his parents gave him, he was not prepared for work. So in spite of them encouraging him, the same meaning as although his parents gave him encouragement. So you see the meaning has been retained. So although his parents gave him encouragement means the same thing as for all the encouragement his parents gave him. So you change how the sentence looks, but you did not change how the sentence behaves. Let's look at another one now. In making plans for community development, one should consider the needs and aspirations of the society. In making plans for community development, one should consider the needs and aspirations of the society. Now look closely. You are to start with one should consider. But you are in luck. You are in luck because that phrase is actually in the sentence already. So you already know where you should start off. So look at the original sentence. You have one should consider the needs and aspirations of the society. So that can stay as it is. What are you going to use now to join that section with the other section that conveys the meaning in making plans for community development? Which of these four options do you think would be the best one to make a seamless connection? You know, sometimes when you're gluing things together, you don't want the glue to show, you know. So that is what you're doing with these. You don't want the glue to show. When you're sewing up a tear in your clothes, you use the same color thread so you can kind of hide it. But when you use a different color thread, it's a simia. So you don't want that happening. So when you start your sentence with one should consider the needs and aspirations of the society, what do you need now to connect that part to the other part in making plans for community development? So there you have your options again. Have you seen the one that best rephrases the sentence? You have. I hope it was this one. When making. So now that you have your opening, one should consider, and you wrote over the sentence and you used when making, what was your result? Look and see. Did it look anything like this right here? One should consider the needs and aspirations of the society when making plans for community development. That one was very easy, wasn't it? All right. Let's see if we can take it up a little bit. Now we have a short sentence, but don't let the short sentences fool you. They're just as tricky. We will go to the cinema on condition you stay at home. So we have an idea being conveyed. You can do this if you do that. So we have to start it with if. So where would if best fit in? You had the on condition, not so. So if you do something, then something else can happen. Where are you going to shift around And when you shift around, what are you going to do to join the two sections that you have shifted? So we will go to the cinema on condition you stay at home. If something happens, then something else can happen. What was your choice? Ready to look? Make sure you had a choice, don't wait on mine. All right, let's go. So again, remember, you had to start with if, and if you start with if, then you would end up using we will in your sentence. Because if you do this, then we will do that. And here's the example of the sentence that you would get when you write it over. If you stay at home, we will go to the cinema. Did you get it right? I hope you did, All right. Let's move to another one. The members wanted the whole committee to be reinstated. And you have to start with the members recommended that. So look at the original now. You had the members wanted the whole committee to be reinstated, but you have to move it now to say the members recommended that. What? Now you have some verbs you have to put in there. Do you use were or is, stay or be when you rewrite this sentence? Remember, you want to keep the original meaning intact. You don't want to change the meaning, you don't want to change the tone, you don't want to change the flow. So if you start with the members recommended that, the whole committee, what you're going to finish it off with? You have your choice ready? I hope you have your choice ready. Want to check now? All right, check now. So there's the original. Was it were? Was it is? Was it stay? Or was it be? Get ready to clap or cry. It is be, as in the word be. So if you look at your restructured sentence, you'll see the members recommended that. See, we have the original part there that we have to use. The members recommended that the whole committee be reinstated. Look at the original and look at the new one. Do you see how they are both saying exactly the same thing, but in two different ways? All right. I hope you're not crying, but don't worry. Your tears shall go away sometime soon. So here's our next one. The children were so disappointed at their friend's failure that they postponed the party. How many of you would do that? You postpone the party because your friend failed and you disappointed. All right, now for this one, we're not starting the sentence with a new phrase. We're going to include a different phrase in the sentence. So it says you're to substitute very for the word so. So where is very in the sentence now? Sorry, where is so in the sentence? The children were so disappointed at their friend's failure that they postponed the party. So if you're going to kick out so and put in very, you're going to have to say the children were very disappointed at their friend's failure. So what next? How are you going to adjust that last part that says that they postponed the party? Remember, it's not the children were so disappointed anymore. It is the children were very disappointed. So which of these expressions can you use in your new sentence that is still going to say, because they were disappointed, they did not bother to have the party. They postponed it. You have 4 options. It's tight, it's sticky. Let us see now. All right, the reminder is right there. You're taking out so, and you're going to put in very. Ready to clap or cry? I hope you're clapping now. And the children were very disappointed at their friend's failure, and they postponed the party. You couldn't use because you're saying the children were very disappointed at their friend's failure because they postponed the party. No, That wasn't the result. The postponement was the result of the disappointment. So because couldn't work, that couldn't work either. So you couldn't say the children were very disappointed at their friend's failure, that they postponed the party. You still need something in between. So remember when I said you use the right color thread? That would have been the wrong color thread. So and is the correct term to use to join those two statements. All right, let's move on to the next one. Ready again. He offered his suggestions because they were always accepted. Yes, man. Encouragement, sweeten labor. So if you always accept, then of course you're going to always offer. No, you need to change how you start the sentence and use his suggestions were. So remember the meaning segments now. You had he offered his suggestions because. And you have the rest of it that says they were always accepted. So the connection is between the suggestions and them being accepted. So now, you have to say his suggestions were something, something, something. So his suggestions were what? Always accepted, yes. So that would be the first meaning portion of your sentence. His suggestions were always accepted. How now are you going to include the part where it says he offers them on that condition? Are you going to use so he offered? Are you going to use that he offered? Are you going to use that he was offering? Or are you going to use when he was offered? One of those definitely cannot work. I hope you can see which one definitely cannot work. So again, he offered his suggestions because they were always accepted. We're going to start with his suggestions were, and we concluded already, his suggestions were always accepted. So what are you going to use to follow that up now, to lead into the new sentence? Let's look. Ready to clap? Crying done now, you know, clapping time. So he offered. So think about the new sentence. You're going to start with his suggestions were always accepted, so he offered. There you go. There you go. All right, let's look at this next one now. He does not intend to further his studies in the field his father has chosen. I hope no parents out there will say that I'm inciting rebellion in their children. I got this from their text. I did not come up with this my own self. So, he does not intend to further his studies in the field his father has chosen. You have to start with he has. What we're going to do now? Because you had a negative to start the original one. And now it seems that you're going to start with a positive. So he does not intend to further his studies. And now you have to start with he has. He has what? He has done what now? What him do? Because this sounds like somebody going to get a proper beating soon. All right, you ready now? What has he done? So you had the choices decided, declared, proclaimed, explained. Decided. He has decided. And then we finish the sentence. So here's the new sentence. He has decided not to further his studies in the field his father has chosen. We understand how we came to that conclusion? Remember, you want to break apart the different sections, deconstruct it, and then you're going to use whatever is there to recreate it. So you want to ensure that when you break it apart, you have the different meaning portions. You want to make sure that now when you put it together, the thread not showing, the glue not showing, and you kept the original meaning. All right. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with more English. Welcome back to class time. So we were looking at construction shift and we're going to continue and then slide right into equivalent sentences. So now, here's our next sentence that you need to deconstruct, then reconstruct by shifting around parts. Finding solutions to some problems can be very difficult at times. And then you're to start it with, it can be. So it can be what? It can be finding solutions? Or do you put it at, it can be very difficult sometimes? Where would you conclude? So you're going to start your new sentence with, it can be. So naturally, it would say, it can be very difficult sometimes. What would you need to use now to join that segment with the original segment that said finding solutions to some problems? Found your answer? Have you found your answer? Ready to clap? Because like I said, we're finished with the crying, don't it? So there are your options. In finding, for finding, to find, and when finding. And your answer should have been C, to find. All right. So when you use to find, your new sentence will look like this. It can be very difficult sometimes to find solutions to some problems. It can be very difficult sometimes to find solutions to some problems. All right. Next one. This one is something we can all relate to. If you complete your chores early, you can relax in the open air. We're all stuck at home inside. A little fresh air is good. So if you complete your chores early, you can relax in the open air. Now, look at what you need to start it with. Completing your chores early. Oh, blessed Jesus. So, completing your chores early will result in what? Completing your chores early. Which of those four phrases can you now use to join that portion with saying that you will be able to relax in the open air after all your chores have done? You're thinking? Completing your chores early enables you to, gives relaxation, relaxes you, you will be able to. Notice, it didn't say after completing your chores early, so keep that in mind. It just says completing your chores early. All right, let's look now. Enables you to. So, completing your chores early enables you to do what? Relax in the open air. Completing your chores early enables you to relax in the open air. I hope we're getting the hang of this now. By now, you are getting fewer of them incorrect because by now, you're very good at deconstructing, reconstructing, shifting, and putting back together. In spite of harsh penalties imposed by the law, drivers continue to indulge in dangerous driving, unfortunately. Now, look carefully. You need to start your sentence with although. Now, if you start with although, what section of your sentence does although correlate to? So would you say although harsh penalties are imposed by the law, or although drivers continue to indulge in dangerous driving? Where does the although best fit? What section of the sentence carries the same idea as the word although? Once you can find that section of the sentence, you put it there, and then when you shift around, what should you use? A, B, C, or D? I hope you're ready, and I hope you're going to clap. Here we go, let's look. So remember, you're starting with although. You have, in spite of harsh penalties imposed by the law, drivers continue to indulge in dangerous driving. Therefore, what you should use is are imposed by the law. C. No. You want to see what the sentence would look like when you finish with it? Of course you want to see it, especially if you're wondering how we got there. So, although harsh penalties are imposed by the law, drivers continue to indulge in dangerous driving. So you saw in spite of harsh penalties, so we have although harsh penalties are imposed. Same meaning being conveyed in both those statements. Next one. What I dislike is people who are impolite. What I dislike are people who are impolite. And you're going to start with the contraction it's, which is short for it is. And keep this in mind, students. Whenever you see it apostrophe s, read it in your mind as it is. Because sometimes, and we're human, you write that word when you should just write its. So always remember it is. So, it's what? Remember now, and I told you, these short sentences are very tricky because they're so tiny. You're not sure what you must break apart and move around. But we need to move around. So it's what? It's a dislike for politeness. It's impoliteness in people. It's not polite. Or it's a dislike for people. Well, we know that one of those is clearly not the answer based on the original sentence. So again, this one is very tricky, so be careful. What I dislike is people who are impolite. What are you going to use after you start your sentence with it's? Ready to look? Clapping time. Impoliteness in people. It's impoliteness in people. But how the sentence look now? We're going to look. Here it goes. So it's impoliteness in people that I dislike. Very short, very simple, and very similar to what I dislike is people who are impolite. All right, let's move on to the next one. However high the cost of living is, some people would still spend their money. I like these rich people. However high the cost of living is, some people would still spend their money. And you need to start with even if. So even if something, then something else is going to follow. So even if what? Even if what? Even if, what about the cost of living? Because you have that section that says, however high the cost of living is. So that opens up the possibility. So even if, which of these are you going to use after even if? Be very careful, There are two there that I know you're going to want to say heads or tails. Keep in mind what the original sentence means. However high the cost of living is. So even if, let's look now, even if the cost of living is very high, not just high, but very high. Because you notice in the original sentence it said, however high. So no matter how high it gets, no matter how very high it gets. So even if the cost of living is very high, some people would still spend their money. All right, I know that one knocked off a few people, but keep it in mind. You want the original meaning to be retained. Now look at this one. In formulating plans for constructing the new housing complex, and we're doing construction shift, conflicting opinions are expected to be revealed. So in formulating plans for constructing the new housing complex, many conflicting opinions are expected to be revealed. And you're going to start with the formulation. So instead of saying in formulating, you're going to start with the formulation. Oh my word, what now? So the formulation of plans for constructing the new housing complex. What else must come in there? Remember your original meaning. You want to capture the meaning. So which of those expressions, when you use it in your new sentence, will still capture the original meaning? Let's see. So we're starting with the formulation. So the formulation of plans for constructing the new housing development will reveal, and what will it reveal? Many conflicting opinions. Remember, it says these are expected to be revealed. So if you expect it, then it will be revealed. So here's a new sentence. The formulation of plans for the new housing complex will reveal many conflicting opinions. Again, we have the same idea being conveyed as the original. Our next one. When he plowed the land, he scattered the seeds in rows. When he plowed the land, he scattered the seeds in rows. Many of us have been doing some amount of farming during this period here, so we can understand this. Now, instead of starting with when, you're going to start with after. So you can't say after he had plowed. What are you going to say? After what? After plowing? After being plowed? After he has plowed? After having been plowed? I'm sure you can see that two of those definitely cannot work. I hope you know which two. And then you have to decide with the two that remain. So now let's investigate now. Which one should you use in the new sentence? Ready? Get your hands ready to clap or to hush somebody. After plowing. Yes, it's after plowing, so here's how it looks. After plowing the land, he scattered the seeds in rows. We have retained the full meaning of the sentence, even though we changed the first part of the sentence. So we changed the first part, but we did not do anything to the last part. We retained the integrity of that part. All right, let's continue now to equivalent sentences. Before we get into it, so remember, when you are doing your construction shift, of course, you need to make sure you understand the original sentence. You need to understand the different parts of the original sentence. Once you understand those parts, then it's not so difficult for you to pull it up, shift it around, put it back together. And it will take practice. So consult your different textbooks. There are many, many different exercises in there, so you can use that to build the skill. Now, something similar to that is the equivalent sentence. Now, in this case, you're given the new sentences to ascertain which one is closest to the original one. So there we have the balancing act. Remember, this sentence and the new one must be equivalent. They must balance out. They must mean the same thing. There must be no change in the meaning. There are certain words that will throw off the meaning of the new sentence, and those are the ones that cause problems with students. There might be that one dege word that has you wondering, is this the sentence or is that the sentence? But you have to think of the overall idea behind equivalent sentences. You're trying to balance them. So of course, you need to read the original sentence. You can't find the equivalent if you don't know the original. You need to look at all the options, every single one of the four. Don't just drop at A or B and say, is it this? Even if you are compelled to believe that you are right, read all of them anyway. Narrow down the possible choices. And again, based on diction. Remember I said there might be that one word that throws off the meaning. So make sure you look at all the options. Some are obviously wrong, so you can run your pencil through those. But then you will have two. Oh, Father, you will have two. And it will cause you many minutes of stress. But keep in mind, you're working against a clock. And then, of course, after you think you have the answer, carefully analyze it. The one you have picked with the one that you were given. Are they really saying the same thing? All right, ready now? So this is what your instructions are likely to look like. For each of the following sentences, choose the option that is nearest, and they usually like to put this in caps, nearest in meaning to the original sentence. So here's a short one. Recent floods have made the route impassable. Recent floods have made the route impassable. Your options. People are unable to travel because of the floods. Because of heavy showers, commuters were forced to detour. The road cannot be used as a result of the floods. Traveling has been brought to a standstill because of the floods. Which of those is closest in meaning to recent floods have made the route impassable? Notice what is in the original that is not in a few of these options you're given. Ready to clap? I hope it's clap. You're going to clap, you know. C is our answer. The road cannot be used as a result of the floods. Same thing as the recent floods have made the route impassable. You can't use the road, the route is impassable. And we have the floods being blamed, and we know that that is the sentence there. We know A can't work because the original one did not mention people specifically. Suppose it's some donkeys that the people ride in, or they're just driving the cows to pasture. So it did not specifically mention people. And it didn't say necessarily that commuters were forced to detour. We don't know if there is a detour to get. We just know that this route, nobody can cross it. We know that traveling, yes, has been brought to a standstill, but did that meaning come clearly through the original statement? The original statement and C are the two that are most closely alike. So our next one. The competitors in the long jump event were daunted by the performance of Bill Jones. Now, Father up above help you if you are unsure of what daunted means. So again, let me take this time to remind you, you need to read widely. You need to expose yourselves to various vocabulary items so that when you are faced with one on the exam, you yourself are not daunted. So now look at the four options you have. Bill Jones was the best participant in the long jump event. Since Bill Jones jumped so well, the other competitors in the event were discouraged. The long jump event daunted all the competitors except Bill Jones. Oh, they used back the word. Nice. I wonder if that is the answer. No one expected to do better than Bill Jones in the long jump event. All right. Which of those four says the same thing as the competitors in the long jump event were daunted by the performance of Bill Jones? Remember, you're looking for the same meaning. So even if you see the same words, you're looking for the same meaning. Have you found your response? Do you see which of these brings the same meaning out? Ready now? You nervous? I'm nervous for you. Did you get B? Since Bill Jones jumped so well, The other competitors in the event were discouraged. No. Yes, the word daunted was used in option C. However, it was not used to convey the same meaning. It just said the long jump event daunted all the competitors except Bill Jones. That is not what happened, is it? It says since Bill Jones jumped so well, the other competitors in the event were discouraged. So, we are going to take our final break. More CSEC English after this break. Hello. So we are back and we're concluding our look at equivalent sentences. So remember, you get the original sentence. You need to identify what it's saying, capture the meaning, and then see which of the 4 options you're given conveys that same meaning. All right, so here is the one we're looking at now. An interest in their nation's development plans should be displayed by its young people. You have 4 options here. Now note carefully. You're thinking of an interest that should be an interest in national development that should be displayed by the young people. Is A your answer? Young people should take an interest in plans for national development. Is B your answer? National development is dependent upon the youth. C says, young people ought to be aware of the plans for the purpose of national development. And D says, the nation will advance through plans proposed by its young people. I do not know about you, but this one should be giving you a little case of So we know one of those is not the answer. There is one there that definitely is not conveying the same meaning as the original. However, there are 2 that are vying for the throne. Which one will win? Are we ready? Have you made your choice? Have you questioned yourself if this is the right choice and said, yes, this is it? Sure? All right. Hope you're not going to cry, So your answer should be, young people should take an interest in plans for national development. Now, I'm sure you thought that C might be a better choice. Young people ought to be aware of the plans for the purpose of national development. But the thing is, when you look at the original, it says that their interest should be displayed. So that is more of an affirmative. C is more of a passive type of statement. They should be aware. Whereas A says young people should take an interest. So it's more of an affirmative action that is taking place, similar to the original statement. So I know that a few of you got thrown off by C. That's why they're called distractors. They're there to take your eyes off the real answer. So you have to be careful. All right, so let's look at the next one. In spite of their size, whales are no longer an even match for man. In spite of their size, whales are no longer an even match for man. So our first sentence says, although they are large, whales can no longer adequately defend themselves against man. Sounds interesting. Next one says, whales are no longer even a match for man. Sounds interesting. Men are no longer a match for whales in spite of their size. Because of their size, whales should be better able to hold their own against man. Oh my, oh my, oh my. We have a conundrum on our hands. Because right there, I'm sure your eyes are just saying, all right, is this one? No, I don't want it. No, wait, hold on there. Read them carefully. You want the one that says this. In spite of their size, whales are no longer an even match for man. In spite of their size, whales are no longer an even match for man. Which of your options gives you that meaning or the meaning closest to this? Ready now? We have a winner. The first one out the gate. But remember what I said, not because you like the first one means you mustn't read the rest. You still have to read them. So, in spite of their size, although they are large, same idea being compared. Whales are no longer an even match for man. Whales can no longer adequately defend themselves against man. So this sentence is longer, but it does have the same meaning coming through. Now, if you look at the rest, when it says whales are no longer even a match for man, it doesn't contribute why. It doesn't say why they're no longer a match. So we didn't get the idea of them being large. Now, it says in the next one, men are no longer a match for whales in spite of their size. That one definitely is not the answer because it is focusing on man and not the whale. And then the last one says, because of their size, whales should be better able to hold their own against man, which is true. However, you want the same meaning being carried out, the same meaning being conveyed. Therefore, you need to go with A. Although they are large, whales can no longer adequately defend themselves against man. All right, let's look at one more. Now, this one is going to be interesting too. This popular English book will be translated into Japanese in its second edition. And your options: a second edition of this storybook will be published because many Japanese want to read it. To cater to the Japanese market, the second edition of this storybook will be in Japanese. There will be two versions of the storybook in its second edition, or this storybook must be in Japanese because it is already the second edition. Remember now, of these four, which one of them says this popular English book will be translated into Japanese in its second edition? Think very carefully. Yes, you're working against the clock, but you don't want to throw away the answer. Which of those four do you believe best captures that idea? All right. Judgment time. Did you get this answer? To cater to the Japanese market, the second edition of this storybook will be in Japanese. So the whole idea is that the Japanese want this book. It's very popular, but of course it's not in Japanese. So they have to put it in Japanese in order to get to that market. So I hope you got that one right. All right, so that's all for today. And we've been discussing equivalent sentences and construction shift. If you have any questions, send them in through the various social media platforms and we'll answer them. Keep safe, wash your hands regularly, sanitize, and please wear your mask.
Hi there, I'm Simon Preston from TVJ. Thank you very much for watching our YouTube channel. To see our latest videos and also to see live events, click here. To see our full videos on onespotmedia.com, click here. Thank you very much for watching.